of intent again? Oh, yeah. I hear ya. Yeah, yeah. In a minute, when everybody finally sits down. Yeah. All right. We can't get enough hugs around here. All right. I'm going to have Carol here read us our statement of intent.
We are fortunate to have a variety of speakers for Sunday services. By using guest speakers, we gain wisdom from all those who share. This is a church where you can worship the God of your own understanding, a place to experience joy and be uplifted, a place where we can gain strength and inspiration to share with all we meet throughout the week. We invite you to join us in this celebration of life, to nourish your spirit, and to enjoy the company of kindred souls. Okay.
So at this time, let's grab the little white cards, or you can grab your hymnal, and it's number 3, Let There Be Peace on Earth. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Lisa will now give us our invocation.
Mother, Father, God, we thank you for bringing us together this absolutely gorgeous morning as we are bathed in the molecules that move as the solar flares light everything up, not just at night, but in the day, both seen and unseen. Let us be guided in our lives by that which is both seen and unseen. Amen.
All right, so our next song is? 211 in Wings of Song. Oneness, I Will Now Let Go. Oh, yeah, I'm one with the one. We all are one with the one. All right. Okay, so at this point, we'll give some announcements here. My name is Sue Brewer. I'm the president of the Board of Trustees of Lake Superior Interfaith Community Church. Our guest speakers today are Steve Plasa and Lisa Cerri. They will be discussing things about God and the universe and gobbledygook, all kinds of, the gobbledygook is the important part. All right, so God and Global Gobbledygook is the title of their presentation today. All right, so Unity. A Unity meeting is Monday night, 6:30. The book is The Fifth Element, or Fifth Agreement, yeah, because he wrote the 4 agreements, and now it's the 5th agreement. So, ooh, very interesting. The Abraham Group, they are still reading The Amazing Power of Deliberate Intent by Esther and Jerry Hicks. And the big news is it's on Tuesday, but at 1 p.m. Okay, 1 p.m. I forgot, I thought I changed it in the newsletter, and then I looked at it and I had forgotten. So please be sure that if you want to come to the group on Tuesday, it's at 1 o'clock. All right, and you want to probably get here a little early. Oh yes, okay. So, big news, the biggest news of the week, number 1, is, those of you who might have noticed, the painting of the slab in front of the lower entrance door. They painted it a nice big dark green. First of all, it kind of matches the building now. And also, it's because if the sun is shining on that side of the building a lot of the time of the day. So with that darker color, it'll heat up that slab and hopefully melt any ice that will be accumulating underneath that slab. So we won't have our issue this year, we had last year, where we could barely open that door. So let's hope and pray. But thank you to Steve and Robert for painting that up this week. Yeah. All right. Sunday questions. Did I get new ones? No. No. How many people want to continue with the Sunday questions? Okay. Oh, well, okay. All right. Unanimous vote. Okay. Although you can always get together and sit and contemplate very heavy things. So, all right, the silent auction is continuing for a while. We will be discussing that at our board meeting today, whether or not we should continue it as a silent auction or to turn it into a raffle where you will see if you win something. Anyway, we'll be discussing that later. So keep your mind on that, and we will update you on that. Okay, Thanksgiving potluck. Please do not forget, Thursday, the, whatever it is, 26th, 27th, is Thanksgiving. I'm so good with dates. So we do usually have some kind of potluck on the holidays for those of you who are not traveling somewhere or going to visit with someone. So Thanksgiving, we do want you to sign up for the Thanksgiving potluck. That's on the round table right next to where you hang up your coat. So please make sure you sign up for those of you who are going to be around. All right, so cookies for the jail. The jail is always sending out notifications around this time that they would like us to collect cookies for the inmates. There are some restrictions: no coconut, no peanut butter, and no nuts. So, I mean, you want to make sure that they're not something that somebody's going to have an allergic reaction to. So if you want to set up something about that, let me know. We will get that underway, because I know that they request this from other churches as well. Okay, also on the table by the coat rack is a card for Carolyn Sheets. It's a get well card, and I thought it was appropriate because it has fruit and vegetables on the outside of it for her, because I know she's vegan and gluten-free. So we've got a card down there. She slipped and fell, what, Friday? Friday. And she, on her front porch, and she broke her hip. She is currently at St. Luke's, room 508, and she miraculously got hip surgery yesterday, hip replacement therapy. Yeah, so she's going to be in our prayers today for sure. Another person who needs to be in our prayers is Marky Mark. Why don't you explain what happened? She got a phone call this morning.
Yeah. He spent Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in the hospital. And he has a pinched nerve, and amongst other things, and urinary tract infection. Blah. Anyway, he said it took the fire department to come and 4 people of the fire department to get him out of his chair, to help him, to get him into an ambulance, to get him to the hospital. So he's in for 3 days. He's feeling better, and they did something for the pinched nerve, medicine. I don't know what all they did. But also, so he said he was told he needed to do a little walking, whatever. But he's in good spirits. He's pulling out of this one, too. I mean, we just keep moving forward, everybody, you know. God bless him. So, thank you. So.
Does anyone else have any other announcements that need to be made? All right, next week, Virginia Hurley will be our speaker. Her topic is healing towards completion. So, with that, let us read our principles, which you'll find on the white card. All right. We believe God is the eternal source and creator of all and is present in everything. Our eternal soul, endowed with free will, grows through many lifetimes. Communication occurs between the physical and spiritual worlds. Prayer and meditation strengthen our connection to the divine. All healing comes from Source. Seeking this for ourselves and compassion for others' suffering is the highest priority. Because we are all one, what we do unto others, we do unto ourselves. The choice of love is always open for every soul. Living these principles leads us to grow in divine love. So at this time, are there any requests for healing? Besides Marky Mark and Carolyn, does anyone have somebody that we should be praying over?
You know, I always.
Come on up. Come on up. Denise, would you grab the healing bowl, please? Thank you.
I've asked this before, and so it's nothing new. But as many of you know, I have a son who is homeless, and he lives in Honolulu. A couple weeks ago, he was in his wheelchair, and he was hit by a car, a truck actually, and then his wheelchair was stolen. So his life is really tough. He's a good person. He is absolutely a believer in higher power, and he is so incredibly cheerful. It's kind of amazing to me because he can barely move, and his body is racked in pain all the time. But I appreciate everybody's help and prayers and any good energy you can send to that Honolulu.
What's his first name?
His name is Nicholas.
Nicholas.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other healing requests? All right, so at this time, the world, everybody needs somebody to pray, somebody they're praying over. So we all know that everybody who needs our help will be giving our love and healing thoughts through our healing bowl, which is active all the time. So at this time, let's sing In the Silence, and then Lisa will ring the bowl, and we'll have a moment of silent prayer after that.
Secret meeting place, love is there. In the silence,
might as well stay still. This will take another 10 minutes. So I'm going to give you another introduction to this sound. This is from Tom Kenyon. He's got many voices, and this is music that he channeled from the beings called the Hathors, and they have sort of an introduction to the message. So this is designed to help us. And in the past, we've done this as well, and I think the important thing is to remember the coherent feelings of gratitude, of love, and of appreciation. This is called Lotus of the Heart. They say your world is undergoing a difficult and precarious transition. You're in the midst of ever-increasing or escalating multiple chaotic nodes, and the changes to your ecosystem are increasingly unfavorable. The rise of fascism across the world is very unfortunate, but as a spiritual being living a human existence, the task facing you is not only to weather it, but to thrive in the midst of it. In order to do so, from our perspective, you must find ways to stabilize coherent states of emotion, for it is the union of thought, emotion, and intent that creates your reality. Many of the attributes of your civilization are being affected and morphing. One of the effects of this is that the global lies are being revealed. Those who create them and sustain them through mind control cannot keep up with the eroding of their facade. As a result, of more and more humans are waking up. Some of the signatures of waking up, in the manner we are describing, is a recognition of the inherent sacredness of life, a desire for collaboration and creation over domination and destruction. Whatever the outcome is upon your earth, it is a rare opportunity for you to evolve. The ascent of consciousness into a higher state of evolution is assisted and protected by coherent emotion, for when your emotional state is coherent, it is easier to wake up and stay awake. You can then more easily make life-positive choices for yourself and those you care for. One of the most ancient tactics to control a human population is to create discordance, to perpetuate fear, anger, and hostility. And yet, the ascent of consciousness requires coherent emotion. The most powerful and effective of these coherent emotions are love, appreciation, and gratitude. But how do you remain in these coherent states when there is so much distress around you? We therefore wish to offer a sound meditation that is simple and highly effective at stabilizing your body, mind, and spirit in coherency. You may feel a shift taking place in your brain, an increase of coherency through the conduit of the vagus nerve. The method is simple. While listening to the sound meditation, your focus is on the physical heart. If your mind wanders, simply bring it back. We'll listen now.
I'm going to invite everyone to remain as close to the state as you may have been brought in the course of that meditation. In the process of hearing, can you hear, Carol? Okay. Okay, so can everyone hear okay? Okay. There's a biblical expression that most are familiar with, being in the world and not of it. And there are, in our own healing prayers, references to seen and unseen. And I made mention that we get to see the glory of the spectral veil opened before us in the skies during an aurora borealis, and we find that to be quite wondrous. And those are energies from the suns that are being translated into our ionosphere and revealing themselves. And those are taking place during the day and during the night. And even when you cannot visualize them, the intensities of the energies that are arriving on the earth by every metric, the most 3D scientific and the most esoteric metaphysical, are definitely on the rise. And Tom Kenyon uses an expression, the chaotic nodes. One might liken those to points on the body where chi flows or is restricted and is opened or dampened by acupuncture. That sometimes when things happen in the physical world, hurricanes, typhoons, earthquakes, and the likes, it's as if the earth is the human body and aspects of contraction are opened up or rebalanced by some of these, what we refer to as environmental disasters, catastrophes, some of which have been happening time immemorial, some of which are happening with greater frequency in our day. These days that we're in are said by myriad belief systems to be a time of elevated intensity. I believe that everyone who's stepped through the threshold of this little blessed box feels quite aware of that as a part of their reality. And it's part of why they are brought here, I believe, by a resonance of sort, to be in a shared space that even if we don't actually create communication with each other, we are communing with each other, and there is a kindredness in our present state. One of the chaotic nodes that I'm going to make some specific reference to right now is the nature of what is the economy, because economies are tied to each of us as individuals. We all have a personal economy in our lives, how we're affected by the nature of what's transpiring in the world, what's transpiring in our country, what's transpiring with our government, of which actually reached a place at which it shut down for a month and a half. Carolyn Mace makes reference to spiritual sight, being able to look out at what is happening in the world, and that the symbolism, maybe it's symbolic sight, that the symbolism of what you see out there needs to be interpreted by our spirits not just what we read in the news or what's fed to us by social media. The reason I entitled this talk, God and Gobbledygook, is that the gobbledygook is a lot of that which is unseen. In the full spectrum, in the metaphysical worlds, in the spiritual worlds, and that which is impacting us in the 3D material, there's just a bunch of things that we're totally unaware of. We are ignorant of how it is that some powers that be, that none of them to my knowledge are people that we know. We don't know people to my knowledge in the World Economic Forum or the International Monetary Fund or a variety of other entities that exist, multinational corporations. But they have immense power, and they are in the course of reshaping the nature of how our economy operates, not just in this country, but in the world. I think many of us here tell of this, or many of us feel at the effect of this. And without getting into too much nitty-gritty detail, the reason that I put this little chart up, and I'm going to switch over to this microphone and give you a hopefully 5-minute overview of a few things. And I want to preface my going over what's on this chart with this. You may not care about what our gross domestic product is, or that this country is almost $8 trillion in debt. Trillion dollars in debt. And a variety of other things that I'm going to talk about briefly. But those really big things all have little feeders that work their way into our personal economies. And what incented me to consider doing this talk was a few weeks ago after one of the board meetings, I heard one gal who was here whose mom was, I believe, in hospice, and saying it was going to be $14,000 a month for that person to be placed in some kind of long-term care. And everybody's talking about how we can cover insurance costs and groceries, and like we hear about this all the time. But I feel like what it tends to do is it creates a distress that maybe we don't even know how to language or talk about until we're at a breaking point in our own everyday world. And part of it is because there's a whole bunch of unknown out there that is having mind-blowing impact. I don't need anybody, there's no quiz after this. I don't care if you absolutely forget everything that I'm going to talk about after I talk about it. I'm actually doing this to say I'm just creating some bones, some context for what is happening to the entirety of the world's financial system, economic system, monetary system. There's all sorts of mechanisms that are out there that are having some effect on us. And so I want you to at least have a little context when you hear something in the news to say, oh, well, I have a vague notion of what that means now, because I'm looking for it to be able to be one less thing that knocks you off your center. Because the imperative is, as Steve was saying, that we create a coherence between our hearts and our minds. And our minds are distracted, and our hearts are bent at the level of destruction to the earth and the nature of war and the catastrophes that are taking place on the planet in that way. And we need to be able to, with consistency, find a place where we bring our hearts and our minds and our bodies, while we are in our flesh-filled forms on this plane of polarity, into a synchronistic way of being, whether you call it consciousness or sentience or oneness. This is what we're needing to do. And so I'm going to go over a couple of things that seem very 3D, but they're cycles that have been around for a long time, and we're going through one. as we're hitting 250 years as a country in the context of a world where countries and empires like China and Russia and South America and Africa and the Middle East have been around for centuries, millennia more than we have. We are the punk little kid on the planet with way too much power. And now the collective of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and 27 other countries that you will come to hear, if you haven't already, as the BRICS nations, have kind of had it with us. And they are saying they no longer want to use our dollar as the world reserve currency. You may or may not know this, but if the Chinese were going to buy oils from the Russians, they have to convert their monies into US dollars before they make that transition. And now they don't. The Chinese said, we're going to swap for your rupees or your yuan or whatever their prime, which makes our dollar less and less important. This is part of what is called the debasement of the dollar. The de-dollarization is what it's referred to on the international scale. This, okay. All right. So I just took this back a quarter century, but you can extrapolate because we've been around for 250 years, that here's 25 years. Our gross domestic product, that's like whatever you make in a year, it's what this country makes in a year. In 1990, it was 6.1 trillion. In 2005, 12.7. In 2025, 27.1. And there was a little break for that during COVID, and you know why. Things kind of shut down for a little bit. Our national debt since the 1980s, here, 1.3 trillion. So in 1980, just a little before this, our debt compares to what we were making $6 trillion worth of product in a year. And we only had debt, which is how our taxes operate and provide services to the world, to our country, I should say. Well, and to the world, because, like, you know, we support lots of folks with our military equipment and our armies to try to keep world peace. 1990, 3.19 million. We'll jump to 2010, $14.5 trillion. 2021, $11.9 trillion. I consolidated the next 15 years from, 10 years, 25 to 30. I'm sorry, I'm not sure about those. But I will say this. This actually goes all the way up here, but I couldn't do it. This is 11.9. This is $37.5 trillion that we are in debt. 37 trillion is 500 billion, this many millions, this many hundred thousands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 places out. Thank you. Okay. 27.1 trillion in 2025 is the guesstimate. Gross domestic product, what we produce. So this is the totality of what is owed, and then they create budgets on the basis of what is produced in a year. And right now, we create we'll say 1.25. let me see, how can I say this? Let's say we produce this $27 trillion. The level of debt in 1 year is all of this much and another 25%, 125%. That's how much debt we have in 1 year. So we are creating over $1 trillion worth of debt in a given year. We don't have the means, pardon? Well, I don't doubt it. He's going to double my numbers. But like I said, there's not a quiz at the end. And if you can differentiate between 1 trillion and 2 trillion in your personal lives, you got me beat. But again, I really don't want to belabor this. I'm really just trying to give you a little context. Here's the GDP. Here's the national debt. When you hear about the national debt, that's the totality of all of which we owe. And the deficit is basically 1 year's worth. So when you hear about the deficit and deficit spending and raising the ceiling of what that deficit spending is, the means by which we support our debt, and I'm not going to get into the real details, is we sell those treasuries. And at one point in time, about 10 years ago, China owned about 40% of our debt because we pay them 4 to 6% interest on that. We cannot cover the interest payments right now. Our military spending has been exceeded in one given year by how much debt we are piling onto this. So I'm going to back up and say, inflation, by definition, inflation versus debasement, inflation is the increase in the average price of goods and services, which reduces the quote-unquote power of money. And the Federal Reserve's target is 2%, that inflation would only go up by 2% a year. Right now it's almost double that, and that's actually down from what it was a few years ago. And we all feel it when we go to the grocery store. And you used to be able to buy 3 bags of groceries for $100, and now you can buy 1 and then a quarter, depending upon what you're buying and where. Okay. Deliberate reduction in the value of the US dollar, often by printing more money without equivalent increase in underlying assets or economic output, no more gross domestic product. We don't manufacture much of anything here. We're pretty much a service-based economy. Visa and MasterCard and finances and great multinational corporations are great generators of wealth. We don't make as much as we used to, with the exception of the military-industrial complex, right? Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and on. Okay, that is called debasement. The de-dollarization is dollar as world reserve currency and the use of a petrodollar. I already kind of went over the BRICS. The de-dollarization is what the BRICS are doing. The rest of, a great measure of the rest of the world no longer wants to play in our sandbox with our money because they're printing it at such a great pace, it's reduced in its value considerably. We call it inflation, but it's not necessarily because everything costs so much more. It's that you have to spend so much more money to get exactly the same thing. So we need to kind of change our mindset and have the awareness both at the national and personal level about that. Let's see, what did I? Okay, value of the dollar. Since January of this year, the dollar has lost 10 to 12% of its value. Since 1913, when the Federal Reserve was created and the dollar that we know now as the dollar, it's lost 96% of its value. In 1970, some of you know and some of you don't, you used to be able to, before 1970, essentially, be able to take a dollar to a bank and swap it out for a dollar's worth of gold. It was backed by gold. Everything was in Fort Knox. 1971, Nixon took us off the gold standard, and our money became exclusively what's referred to as fiat. It's based upon trust of the world and this country in our country's capacity to generate income, gross domestic product. But by comparison, and we would probably be okay if we were just producing this and this was in keeping with that. But it's factors beyond that. And the interest alone that we pay exceeds what we generate. Still following me? Okay. Does everybody know this already? Are you knowing? Okay, you got some familiarity. All right, let's see. Since January of 2025, our dollar, okay, as I said, has lost 10% of its value. Okay, now we're going to jump from kind of the 3D world. And I wrote this when I got together with Steve before. It says, the powers that be. So now we're going to talk very briefly about the seen and the unseen. Out here, having impact on all of this, is the World Economic Forum and the International Monetary Fund and the BIS, Bank of International Settlements, of which is the central bank's central banker in Basel, Switzerland. And people like Larry Fink, who's the CEO of BlackRock, who is a hedge fund manager of over $12 trillion worth of finance. About 20% or so of the entire world's economy underneath BlackRock. And so the people who've been trying to fight some of that from minimal places have to do with, my sister told me 5 years ago when she bought her place in Phoenix that she was told by the realtor that while Phoenix was going through a big boom in real estate during COVID, that over 20% of the homes that were purchased in Phoenix were purchased by BlackRock or like entities, not individuals. This is part of why we don't have enough housing, and it's part of why the prices have gone completely crazy. Okay. Powers that be, question mark, positive or negative? I'm going to pause it here for a moment. P-O-S-I-T, pause it, not pause like stop. Pause it for a moment. I'm going to place for your consideration that if we are creators of our own reality, that the imperative is that we be conscious creators. If we are not conscious that this is a part of what affects our reality, we cannot be conscious creators that seek to answer or counterbalance that from within us. I'm further going to say that the powers that be are not the powers of being in that deep conscious way. When we are in our being, when we are sovereign, spiritual beings, the nature of how the 3D world could fall around beyond us is not that which will affect us. So we have to be mindful in our awareness, in our thoughts, in our conversations, in our functions on the daily, of at least that dynamic. If you feel a sense of helplessness or powerlessness around your personal economy, your budget, your means of generating income, what you do have control over is the ability to embrace grace in your own world, in your own hearts, and realize the monstrous powers that are affecting change on this planet. I believe that the less than fully conscious aspect of ourselves actually created a part of what it is in the hopes of waking more people up, tearing back the veil, revealing that which has been working in clandestine ways behind the curtains and having this effect. Did anybody see the movie Everything, Everywhere, All at Once? It was kind of like a fire hose coming at you, visually, right? It's kind of the way I feel when I just open up social media, or turn on the television, or have a conversation with somebody who's relatively aware. It's what's happening. Everything, everywhere, all at once is getting stirred up. We need to be in the center of that vortex. We need to bring ourselves to a place where in our hearts and our minds, we are less at the effect energetically, and that we create the world that is around us from that still centered place. However you reach it, whether you reach it by a walk in the earth, an ice cold bath, a sauna, a cry, a meditation, whatever works for you and is healthy and balanced, ideally. Mental, emotional, and spiritual preparedness. I wanted to, it's a lot to cover, and it's 11:30, so. Tom Kenyon is in the Orcas Islands, and Darlene and I are headed to the Orcas Islands the 6th through the 13th of December for a few days. I have literally felt called out there, drawn to that place. I would never go to the Pacific Northwest of my own volition, aside from to visit somebody, because it's kind of cold and gray and damp and rainy, and I need sun. My solar cells need sun. But something about the lushness and the greenness and the way that those islands there are like, kind of, this is a bit of a stretch, but I'm going to use it anyway, are kind of like the white guy's version of indigenous peoples. They're kind of like removed from a lot of the everyday that we've kind of gotten ourselves into. They have farmers markets, they have lots of things that people in Minnesota are kind of accustomed to. We're very ecocentric here, but we're also very much at the effect of what spins us too. So just remain aware of that. And I want to talk about, let's see, so in the category of, well, what do we do about that? Thanks for telling us. How am I going to sleep at night? So the reason that you're here, in part, is to tend to your spirit and create community. I would really like for that to be a deeply more conscious, structured effort, because I am not the only one who believes that in the cycles of things that are taking place, we have all kind of become more isolated and individualized. That's the American way, individualism, rugged individualists. And that doesn't bode well when shit hits fan. And we're all feeling a little bit of that sense of compression in our own lives. So be with each other, and however it is you reach out to your neighbors, your friends, your families, seek to create some conscious communication around this and structure things over the next few years, because I believe between 2025 and 2030, I know for a fact, not conjecture, not woo-woo, not conspiracy, you can go to the World Economic Forum's site and they will specify to you that you will own nothing and you will like it. That's what they're famed for saying. They are restructuring the global monetary system. And you will feel undermined by this. So I'm calling your attention to it. These are a handful of 3D world live assets you can consider. Real estate, cash, stocks and bonds, precious metals, commodities, crypto. I am not here to sell anybody anything. I am totally neutral on all of these. I will tell you that there's never been a time in this world that I'm aware of where the cost of real estate has now not gone like this. It's stabilizing, if not dropping in some markets. Cash, I've already said, has dropped by 10 to 12% in 1 year. Stocks are, the handful of them that are keeping the market way up are way up, but if you've watched it in this last week or two, it's taken a serious dive. And if we lose some of the AI stuff and the robots, the rest of the market will not be able to hold that up. Precious metals and gold have gone up 40 to 60% in this last year. That's always a move to value. When people have less trust in the dollar, they move to gold and silver definitely something, if you have the capacity, I would consider. Commodities, oil, coffee, farming, wheat, soy, etc. You see how the markets have been really disrupted here in Minnesota, in Iowa. China wasn't buying our soy. Our farmers are going under. Some of these entities that you don't see are buying the land as the farmers go under. It's designed. There's mass manipulation taking place behind the scenes. Crypto, you can believe in it or not. You see what's happened with our existing administration, good, bad, or indifferent. I have no particular, I seek to transcend all of it. I don't want to be Republican or Democrat. I wasn't born that way. I didn't register that way. I want people to be with each other in their hearts. And when I see individual humans who do not appear to be in their hearts, I seek to distance myself from them, and I seek to spend more time with those who remain in their hearts. And I'm going to let Steve summarize the rest of this, and thank you very much.
Try not to go too long here. Couple things that I want to mention that came off of what she was talking about. This idea of inflation, they give it to us in percent per year. Remember, it accumulates. So in the last 5 years, inflation has grown 23%. So the year to year is just a reflection of the immediate price change during that year, not counting the previous years that has gone up as well. Inflation is removing the value from our money, and we don't control that, but one of the things I wanted to talk about briefly was money itself, this system of money that we have. And you know, I follow Get Wisdom, and Creator gave us an answer about money and why do we use it, and you know, what's going on here. So I thought I'd share a little bit of that. You know, it wouldn't be possible to use the barter system in our complex economy because there's so much that we need to facilitate quickly, and you can't carry around enough of your commodities that you can actually use to trade for something else. So money is a representation of that work and value that you've created. It was sort of, they call it a surrogate for goods and services, but the problem is it's supposed to have a value in its own right, in its own quantity, that is in keeping with the nature of the value that it represents. So right now, the value that we have is in paper dollars. And by itself, paper is not good for much. It used to be gold. Gold which could be made into things, which everyone saw as value, that could be seen as value because it didn't tarnish. You could tell that it was not substituted for something else, you know, something else wasn't substituted for it. Gold was heavy, and it is. It's another thing that has value. If we would have kept gold in our monetary system, then the money would have continued to have value. But the whole plan from the beginning has been to reduce the amount of gold before, when they confiscated it, before the Federal Reserve came into existence. And then after that, when they removed it from accounting to how much of a dollar is gold, you know, how much gold is in a dollar, and now it's how much is your dollar worth compared to everything else that's going on in the world. So anyway, the defect is that we print fiat currencies arbitrarily as needed by powerful governments who, in doing, cheapen its value and risk ruining those that accept the money, believing that it has value, and giving away their livelihood, which is what you spend to get dollars, your work, your labor, for the promise that it's going to be worth something, but now it might not be paid back to you. So we have another shutdown in 75 days. I just thought I'd remind you the possibility here the government's only paid through January 30th. So that's another possibility that we should be aware of. As a conclusion to what Lisa was saying is, this is a statement I found that really made a lot of sense to me. It says, the world faces a slow motion destruction of the currency purchasing power in our dollars. Inflation is the persistent threat, won't go away, eroding our wages and the deposits in our savings deposits. The resources that we have divert from innovation to servicing that debt and that government bureaucracy. And that doesn't let us produce what we used to produce, so hence our GDP is not increasing. And all through this, the middle class suffers higher taxes, persistent inflation, losing our disposable income and our social mobility because we have even less wealth than we had before. And health problems and other things like that are taking away from that. So again, why is this important? If you're unaware of it, you're vulnerable. Free will is not a privilege. I mean, it is a privilege. It's not a guarantee that things are going to go well. It's a privilege that you have to make choices. And you are at risk in this realm because of the environment. It's a dangerous world. But if you're unaware of what's influencing things and you, then you are still at risk. So, free will is given to us. We are sovereign beings. Creators put us in charge, in control of our lives. And Creator, I believe, is another aspect of this greater unseen force. But we don't understand that Creator doesn't help without invitation, doesn't help without us asking. And it needs to be repeated asking. It's an intention that we build. So that's part of the truth of prayer, and I've talked about that before. When we pray every day, the intentional energy of that prayer is like putting money in the bank that earns compound interest. The compounding is done by giving our intention to that all the time. And that's the type of fuel that the Creator needs to intervene when we ask. So if we're not banking those prayers, that's less that we can count on to provide the fuel to do things that we ask for when we are in trouble beyond our means of coping. So again, just a brief thing. There's a prayer for abundance on the back table that talks about the idea that you can ask for. Source Creator, help me each and every day to find the best expression of my soul, to be rewarded in my life with a flow of abundance, to keep me safe, protected, supported, and have all the benefits of financial security, to help me continue expressing the highest version of myself without fear and without worry. So that's a good one to keep in mind and repeat. And remember also, based on what Tom Kenyon was saying, we can also ask Creator to return us to the flow of coherent love and appreciation and gratitude. So with that, I leave you. Thank you.
Holy smokes. Okay, I'm not going to speak. All right, at this point, can we get a couple of people to bring forth the baskets? Little music there, Carol. Steve, what do you think we should skip the last film? And you can speak right in there.
Right. And now, as we gather together, we have given some form of energy to help each other here. Everything we gave today is part of light, compassion, love, peace, and joy, which is what we do to ourselves and to each other. And so we also can take that energy and understand that, yes, we are part of the universe of light, compassion, love, peace, and joy. And for a moment now, feel those words. Light, compassion, love, peace, joy. We are all together in this. Amen, amen, amen.
All right, let us say our church affirmation. Our church affirmation: we totally accept the belief that God is in charge of the affairs and direction of Lake Superior Interfaith Community Church. As our thoughts of trust and joyful anticipation join in harmony with the thoughts of all members of this fellowship, we attract right ministerial leadership and people to our spiritual community. And we are grateful. For our final song, we are going to sing Finlandia out of our books, but let's circle up, bring your hymnal up, and let's link some elbows and read some music together. And since Steve kind of gave us a benediction already, we can just do the song.